Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of September 6, 2021. In terms of the stock market prediction, Monday, the 6th is going to be a holiday, so the US market is going to be closed. On Tuesday and Wednesday, I expect market to go down, and then on Thursday and Friday, I expect market to go up. On Tuesday, September the 7th, I expect that there might be greater than usual market moves. In terms of the focus and the news, I think that there might be some concerns about healthcare-related topics, such as the rise in infections, poor performance of some drug, perhaps in some trials, or there may be some concerns about rising addictions, rising some sort of side effects, perhaps of some drug or overdose rates. Basically, any problems that are associated with inflammatory reactions or just overuse of chemicals, perhaps overuse of fertilizers, but basically something along the lines of chemicals or drugs either not performing as they're expected or their overuse causing problems. There may also be news about excessive precipitation or some concerns about oil prices, gas prices, transportation of oil and gas, as well as chemicals and pharmaceuticals, and perhaps a spread of the pollution or contamination or of some poison. If, say, there is an oil leak, there may be concerns about, say, body of water being contaminated, but it could be a poisoning or contamination associated with pretty much any other chemical or any other pollutant. And in general, again, I think the market is going to go down on Tuesday because of some of these related concerns. For the US, the days of September 7th and 8th are significant, where there may be increased news about either military or sports or just competitions or competitive activities or aggressive and assertive sort of individuals. Again, they could be like military leaders or athletes, somebody who's either from those areas professionally, or the person may just be really known for being, like a fighter in terms of their personality, or an aggressive, competitive person, or somebody that is like a daredevil and engages in risky activities. And in terms of these individuals or those leaders, the concerns, or rather the news may be that perhaps there's a new leadership comes in, like a new maybe athletic coach is appointed for like a famous or not famous, but rather an important team, for example, or maybe an athlete switches themes and achieves some sort of record, for example, or maybe a new military leader rises to prominence. On the negative side, such a person, like a leader, may be in the news because, again, they're perceived to be acting too risky, like too rash, sort of too fast, too aggressively, taking unnecessary risks, or acting sort of too macho, overly kind of aggressive, and there may be basically that kind of behavior may be perceived as irritating by some people, and therefore there may be some negative attention to such individuals over their skills or leadership style, again, because they take too many risks or they act too kind of aggressively. Wednesday, the 8th, as I mentioned, I think market is going to go down, and 8th and 9th of September are significant for China in terms of the transits to the natal chart of China, and there may be increased focus on various negotiations, partnerships, trade deals, communication, transportation, commerce, and we may hear about either new deals or new sort of trade agreements, new deals, again, specifically related to like communication and transportation, and associated with that, there may be increased activity in the stock market, as well as some announcements about either financial policies or some policy that specifically affects rates, investments, or earnings. So there may be changes associated with, again, most likely communication and transportation businesses, but there will also be announcements about, or most likely will be announcements about some sort of financial policies or policies that affect perhaps earnings of those kind of businesses. And there may be some element of surprise concerning these kind of agreements. It could be that the partnerships are somehow unusual. Maybe the partners themselves are unusual. Somebody who previously didn't collaborate before, or previous agreements maybe suddenly broken, or new agreements maybe suddenly entered into. And again, the areas that might be involved most likely will be communication, transportation, but it may also specifically relate either military, weapons, airspace capabilities, something like flying weapons, or some vehicle that's maybe is flying or moving really fast, and again is used for perhaps again military purposes, like maybe, I don't know, a drone or something like that, or use of technology like AI, for example, IT, any sort of networks, capabilities, again to basically for communication, but specifically with the focus on either military or sports, or something that kind of gives a competitive advantage. Also for China, 9th and 10th of September looks significant, where again there might be increased focus on deals, commerce, agreements, and things of that nature. But this time, 9th and 10th, we're going to see increased focus on these deals and agreements in the areas related to oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, biomedical research. And again, there may be some news about financial policies that would either aim to, I guess, improved earnings in those areas, but also somehow there may be effect on the currency value. And there may be either some element of confusion or even some missing information, whether again it's on purpose or just, by accident. But some details may not quite be clear. So either the financial policies may be not, clear itself, or the conditions are not clear, or perhaps again some terms are not quite clear. And again, this could be obscured on purpose, or it could be just not available because some data are still being gathered, for example. And again, the agreements or the areas where those deals, perhaps negotiations may come up, again, oil, gas, anything to do with other Neptunian domains like, navy, ships, fisheries, also navy, prisons, chemicals, beverages, music, movies. And again, there either will be strong focus on these domains in terms of the agreements or negotiations or trade deals, and or at the same time the details of the exact details of these agreements or these negotiations or partnerships, for example related to Navy, may not quite be available at this time. Again, whether it's on purpose or not, that's not clear because again this situation may be somewhat confusing or unclear at that particular time. Then let's see, for the US, the dates of the 12th and 13th of September, which would be Sunday of this week and of course into Monday of next week, there in the US, there may be some important news related to either military, weapons, and again sports, athletes, sort of competitive activities, and also fires, anything related to Mars, really, so it's weapons, fires, like I said, sports, and just fighting, dangerous activities, again, like somebody jumping with a bungee cord, something that can be exciting, but also risky and dangerous. And there might be some concerns, again, about sort of those things getting out of control, so like maybe fires getting out of control, or perhaps some person or persons getting kind of doing things that are too risky and perhaps unnecessarily kind of risking their lives or lives of others. Or there may also be protests about like gun violence. So protests basically against, or people basically will get irritated by this excessive sort of risky activities, and there may be protests against things that are dangerous. So we will have some, I guess, conflict between folks that maybe want to engage into these risky activities and maybe are competitive and are driven, and others that perhaps feel like that's just too much and it could be too dangerous, again, be it because it's related to like gun violence, for example, there may be protests against that, or because, again, there may be concerns about these competitions kind of getting unhealthy, for example, or some military activities getting, again, too risky, too dangerous. Also, at the same time, the 12th and 13th for the US may see increased focus on again, Neptunian domains, so oil, gas, navy, fishing, chemicals, healthcare, and things like that. And there may be slight concerns, maybe some problems in those areas, maybe higher than expected. Infection rates may be reported, or maybe there's some disagreements about projects in those areas, maybe related to oil, for example, as far as like how things should proceed, in which direction, within what timeline. And so there may be some arguments and disagreements in those areas. And so at this time, if there's indeed a negotiation in the US about, let's say, a pipeline-related project, or healthcare or chemical-related project, or Navy-related project, chances are at this time there might be disagreements among whoever is in charge of that project about how exactly to proceed. And so at this time, things may be either confusing or they may stall briefly, because again, until all the facts are clear or until the agreement is reached. And unfortunately, if indeed things are rushed too much at this time, which is the 12th and the 13th, to say, okay, we need to reach an agreement, and at this time there may be too much confusion and too many kind of missing details that ultimately this project may result in losses, again, due to just kind of poor timing or misunderstandings. So maybe, let's like rush and send a ship full of, I don't know, some chemicals or pharmaceuticals or some kind of medications or something, or oil, I don't know, tanker or something like that, because it's needed. And but in this sort of a rush of activities, that vehicle or ship may reach the wrong port or the wrong destination, so things may be shipped to the wrong address, or medication stored at the wrong temperature, or the wrong medication is administered for the problem that perhaps it requires some other kind of medication. So basically some problems, again, due to confusion, lack of information, and perhaps somebody rushing too much and kind of missing some important information, and things may just kind of result in losses or problems. For China, the 12th of September is also significant, and there may be some important announcements regarding its currency value, again, financial policies, insurance, taxes, tariffs, and or trade and shipping agreements. So it could be some domestic financial policy, again, like some taxes, for example, or it could be involving international partners. So maybe some, again, trade agreements and basically discussion of taxes or tariffs related to that. And there might be some focus on this new project or new beginning on the 12th or so for China, where it will be, I guess the desire or the goal of the project would be to bring more money, increase earnings, and improve bank stability. And again, there may be some announcements regarding financial policies or taxes or currency value that again will aim to increase earnings and improve stability of banks through those kind of activities. In terms of the rest of the month, as I mentioned previously, I did a very quick glance ahead, and that's at my blog.lasunka.com, but basically the months overall looks a little bit slightly down, but there will be some up and down days, and I guess for the next sort of a bigger, more important day where I think the market may go down will be in the 20th of this month. Let's see, and after that, I did look up quickly. It looks like November, the week of November 8th and 16th, or 15th, is it? Yeah, the 8th and 15th are going to be somewhat significant or more significant than usual. In particular, on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of November approximately, there will be a square between Mars and Mercury together. They will square Saturn, which might indicate some basically problems related to like maybe again tensions in the world, like geopolitical tensions, protests against governments, or some other kind of accidents and difficult activities, such as like a major earthquake, for example, or a landslide or mudslide, something to do with basically some structural concerns of an old building or an old infrastructure project, or perhaps an old leader, or a previously kind of a stable company may experience some kind of concerns where basically there may be some upset at those leaders or upset at those companies or governmental, entities, because they may be seen as kind of doing something that's outdated or old and no longer applicable. And so there may be kind of some shakeups related to that. And then after the week of the 8th of November, with these kind of, with focus on these kind of events, there may be on the following week, we will have Mars opposing Uranus. And of course, Uranus currently is transiting through the sign of Taurus, which has to do with banks, earnings, currencies, and Mars in Scorpio would have to do with things like, again, taxes, insurance, investments, and also earnings, but earnings through these kind of derivatives. And so there may be some concerns the week of the 15th of November, on the one hand, about anything to do with like financials, and especially, again, digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, or any digital transactions. So maybe some online, processing of sending money online somehow, or also taxes. So it could be maybe some announcements related to maybe taxation of, say, earnings from cryptocurrencies, or some changes in some policies that specifically affect banks, or how money is sent, again, via, say, some online payment method or something like that. And there may be some surprising developments. It could be surprising excitement where there's some new technology being implemented suddenly and kind of sooner than expected, or it could be kind of a more of a shocking, kind of unpleasant surprises where something that was supposed to be really cool and innovative suddenly breaks down. So perhaps some cryptocurrency exchange, suffers some outages, or some social media platform suffers outages, and people, again, especially when they're trying to send money, or they're invested and they think that this thing is valuable, and suddenly there's a really strong volatility in the value of that business, or in that stock, for example, or in that of the currency. It could be cryptocurrency, but it could also be, of course, also just regular currencies as well. Or it could be the value of particular financial institutions may again be subject to strong volatility at that time, the week of the 15th of November, that is. And also other kind of events that may come up at the time that are associated with Mars-Uranus opposition could be power losses, power outages, outages in terms of the data signals not being sent properly, or problems with airlines, problems with sort of airspace, transportation via air in general, or even sudden attacks that come from the air. So it could be some drone strikes or something like that, or anything that's flying. It could be a natural event such as, lightning storm, something along those lines. So basically, those couple weeks in November may seem maybe a little bit more difficult than usual. And after that, I guess another really important time period to mention this year is mid-December of 2021, and that will be significant both globally as well as for the US. As I mentioned previously, for the US, there may be again announcements in mid-December about some important policies, financial policies, or something to do with value of US dollar, or or funding or earnings of communication transportation companies. And at the same time, I think mid-December, especially around the 15th, there might be potentially a peak or a reversal in the value of gold and also silver. And finally, globally, at that time, unfortunately, will be a stressful transit between Mars and the nodes of the moon all at the same time, and that typically symbolizes, again, various tensions, maybe either natural events like some sort of, like I said, mudslide, a bad storm, or it could be also something that is man-made, where there's an accident or even an attack, or, Mars has to do with, of course, military, but also athletes. So if there's an athletic competition, at that time, it's probably not the very auspicious time to be doing anything sporty that can result in injuries, because that's sort of what that transit symbolizes. So it could also be an airplane accident, also strong earthquakes, protests, or just people kind of acting a little bit more irritated than usual. And basically there are also important transits to the US chart at the same time. So as I mentioned, at the very minimum, we may expect some announcements regarding US dollar value and financial policies, but generally speaking, the 15th of December may be a time to kind of pay a little bit close attention to just nature, and maybe not venture places where there might be earthquakes or some other kind of avalanches, etc. So I think that will do it for me for this week. I hope you're having a good week, and I'll get you guys later. Until next time, bye.